thanks so much for being a part of this. I tell you what, I don't have a long bio on it. Have you got just a couple of short sentences where you are today and just a little short history about yourself?
Sure. I started my career in think tanks. I'm doing research on a variety of topics, including nuclear defense, verification technologies, counterterrorism, and a few other topics. I did about 2 years specifically looking at special operations in Afghanistan, and I passed the magical threshold after which people call you a subject matter expert. And so from there, I went into the Pentagon working specifically on special operations policies. I worked on a variety of policies, both budget, personnel issues, and I worked on a few operational issues as well. I was also part of SOCOM's decision to open all military occupational specialties to women. And then I served in a variety of positions, including support to the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, the DepSecDef, and the Secretary. And then from there, I joined NSIN, and it was still a fledgling organization within the department at the time. So it was a lot of fun to be a part of NSIN's mission and to make it grow.
Very good. Obviously, my quick question here is a follow-up because we want to move on in the interest of time. But with that incredible history and that bio, did you have other members of your family that were in the military? I'm going, wow, how about that?
Not in my immediate family. I will say that, although my last name, to your previous question, you can wiki my last name, and Hajduks were actually rebel soldiers who protected peasants from the Ottoman Empire. So I think there's a little bit in there. I'm just not in my immediate family.
Okay.
So I'd like to tell folks that I took the nerd track into the department.
I did have to look it up. I think it means foot soldier, right? In Hungarian.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
There are Hajduks all over Eastern Europe, including Hajduk's soccer team in Serbia.
There it is.
Well,
Yeah, absolutely. So it's absolutely destined that you had to come and help with national security.
That's pretty good stuff. Delighted to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is great.
So we also have Alex Goldberg with us, right?
We do.
So you guys are going to have a little conversation. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, guys. I'll take it from here.
Yes, sir.
Alex Goldberg, go by Storky, currently a member of the Texas Air National Guard, Air Force pilot, a couple thousand hours of combat experience, F-16s, MQ-9s, currently a DARPA fellow from the Defense Research Project Agency, and currently the director of TMDx, which is the Texas Military Department Joint Innovation Unit. And Kristen, appreciate you joining me here. Very humble in your intro. You're an absolute superstar. So I really appreciate you coming online. And I think, for those that are on the call, we'll get a little bit more of experience to what I believe is one of the more impactful innovation units that we have in the DoD. But beforehand, I just wanted to kick off with a video. Let me preamble this by General Milley, who's the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff. He pushed a video based on comments from the recent change of command of our Air Force Chief of Staff, Chief Brown. And it puts a finer edge on the core principles for why those in uniform serve, and a call for those not in uniform in academia and industry, amongst all walks of life, to be able to join and serve alongside us in whatever capacity they can, to lift the human condition, right, to inspire the next generation and to usher in that next era of peace and prosperity. So if you can play the video, I greatly appreciate it.
It's really about something much bigger than just the passing of colors. It's really about an idea that's worth defending. It's about the oath that we all take. An oath to an idea that is codified in our Constitution, an idea that is powerful enough to bring down tyrannies and dictatorships, an idea that's feared by our enemies like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and an idea that's emulated by our friends. And like all powerful ideas, it's very simple and one that can be understood by all of us. And it's an idea that we are not only sworn to protect and defend, but it's an idea that we have all said we are willing to die for. We're willing to lose a leg or suffer tremendous hardship and sacrifice. It's also an idea that we should all be willing to live for, regardless of the cost to ourselves. So what is this simple, powerful idea? It's an idea that says that you and I, regardless of whether we're black or white, it doesn't matter if we're Asian or Indian, or no matter what the color of our skin is. It doesn't matter if we're Catholic or Protestant, Muslim or Jew, or choose not to believe at all. It doesn't matter if we're male or female, gay or straight, or something in between. It doesn't matter what our last name is. It doesn't matter what our country of origin is. It does not matter if we're tall or short, young or old, rich or poor, famous or common. What matters is that under these colors of red, white, and blue, under the stars and stripes, we are all Americans. And we are all, every one of us, born free and equal. And we will rise or fall based on our knowledge, our skills, our attributes, our competence, and our merit. And we're going to be judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. That is the organizing concept, core principle of the idea that is America, codified in our Constitution, that we are all sworn to protect and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that we will never turn our back on that Constitution, no matter what the price. It is that idea that beats in the hearts and souls of every airman, soldier, sailor, Marine, Coast Guardsman that has ever worn this uniform. It is that idea that the Air Force defends every single day. It's that idea that we celebrate today.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. And so big picture, what is that problem that from birthed out, right, the DIU, Defense Innovation Unit, National Security Innovation Network, AFWorks, Naval X, Army Futures Command. What was that thing, right, from the president to our secretaries to our senior leaders? What was that thing that they feared? And you heard that theme yesterday, and you heard the theme today. And it was summarized by something that General Hajduk, who was at the time the commander of STRATCOM, now he's the Deputy Joint Chief of Staff, and he told us a secret of why this all came about, why the Defense Innovation Initiative started in 2014, and why this is not going away anytime soon. And he told us that the thing that he fears the most is not Russia or China or Iran or North Korea. It was that he feared, they all fear, that we've lost as a nation the ability to go fast. And that our adversaries, our near-peer competitors, are moving faster than us in hypersonics and space, and in fielding commercial technology that is originating here in the United States, right? Back in the 50s, for every dollar that we had in research and development, industry only had about 50 cents. Now, for every $1 we have at DARPA in our research labs to invest in the next game-changing technologies, even amongst our primes, the Lockheed Martins and the Boeings, $8 now comes from the Amazons and the Googles and the Facebooks and startup communities, big and small, all across the country. And there's certain centers of gravity that those pool at: Silicon Valley, Boston, and now here in Texas, right? You have the Texas corridor, which is comprised of Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, 10th largest economy, for the top 10 largest cities in the nation. And no state income tax. Gotta love that. So at the end of the day, right, these technologies, many of these startups in artificial intelligence, big data analytics, additive manufacturing, cyber, they're not walking down the halls of the Pentagon. And 20% of all venture capital comes from China and Russia. And they're coming into our centers of gravity. They're purchasing beyond, right, there are other programs that we'll talk about. They are able to just purchase our technology. And we're starting to see it used against us on the battlefield. And never more than ever is there a need for that national security network to look at new novel solutions to help solve some of our challenges. So Kristen, I'm so excited to be here. I just want to kind of set the foundation of why it is so critical that, by 2030, 30, right? In the next decade, 40% of all scientists will come from China. 3.6% will come from the United States. By 2027, 2028, China will surpass our research and development budget that we have here in the United States. And so what are these new novel approaches, new theories of innovation so that we can keep our technological superiority? So first, Kristen, if you could just tell us a little bit about your journey and why you personally serve.
Sure. So, Storky, as I said earlier, I kind of spilled the beans and told everyone that I was just a big nerd who was always interested in national defense. I saw not only an opportunity to inform decisions when I was at think tanks, to really kind of get to the bottom of the problems and the challenges the department was looking at by investigating it, experimenting with other alternatives, and testing those alternatives and seeing what was best for the department. And because I was able to have that kind of experience, I was able to go inside the department, then use that knowledge to actually affect new decisions that the department was making. And, I mentioned that one of the initiatives that I worked on was the Women in Service Review. And that also happened at the same time that then Ash Carter initiated his Force of the Future effort, which I'm sure most of the military folks will know. That was really just a question about how can the department rethink the way it does personnel policy? How can we make the department more flexible for service members? We have a growing number of service members that are actually also married to someone who serves. And so that creates a number of not only challenges, but also opportunities for the military. And so the question was, how do we recruit better and how do we retain talent more effectively? And a lot of that conversation, we tend to call it entrepreneurship, right? How do you make your organization more effective? But that conversation quickly got into entrepreneurial challenges. What kind of technologies does the department need to make its military personnel systems more effective? And that was really the experience that I had that kind of crystallized this idea that there are really two sides of this innovation coin. Not only is it the technology that the department needs to find and to absorb, but it's also about making the department more effective at using that technology and deploying it in a way that better defends our country.
No, I appreciate it. And I share that same sentiment. A lot of the times I hear people talk about, right, innovation, it's all about technology. And, yes, it is a huge piece to maintain our technological superiority of always being on that leading edge. But there's something fundamental that, as a nation, we've been at war for almost 3 decades. And often is the case that we start resting on our laurels, that we are still in very way the big dog, right, in the world in regards to ensuring peace and prosperity. And so the challenge that we face here, especially in the DoD, is that it comes down to a cultural shift, right? That we cannot rest on our laurels. We need to have this continual process improvement and continually looking to adapt. What works today will not work tomorrow. And it's on borderline if what we have now would even work today. In a war against a near peer adversary, we would win, but it would not be pretty. And so how can we ensure that peace and prosperity? A part of it is that culture, getting away from this no because mindset, right? And getting into this more problem solving, right? How do we get to yes? Morally, legally, ethically, but how do we get to yes? Even if we showed a teleportation device right now to any of our branches, before it was adopted and into a program of record would be, literally a half a decade at warp speed. So needless to say, that's awesome that you wanted to have an impact and serve alongside. So there are many theories of innovation, right? People get confused, right? There's DIU, there's AFWERX, Armored Futures Command. Everyone has an innovation unit. And so where does NSIN fit? Is it a part of a service? Is it above that? Can you just tell us a little bit about what was the impetus for which NSIN was created? That vision, what is the mission? What is the problem that NSIN is trying to solve?
Sure, I think that's a really important question because in order to better engage the department, it's important to know which organizations can fulfill which roles. And so, I tend to sort of bend the department's innovation efforts into a couple different themes. The first one is really the offset strategy. We've had several offset strategies in the department's history. Manhattan Project was the first one. Second offset was about ISR and precision munitions. And then our most recent offset that then Deputy Secretary of Defense Bob Work initiated was the AI and quantum focus. And of course, that led to things like creating a new CTO for the department. That also led to the Joint AI Center. And the second sort of theme of innovation the department has is about our moonshots, right? These technologies that the private sector just doesn't really know what the use of it is. And so we leverage taxpayer dollars to help evolve those technologies. And then the third one is, sort of a reform the system kind of effort. You'll see a lot of this right now. There's a lot of discussion about how do we increase agile contracting. The strategic SIBRs that AFWorks has, the increased use of OTA consortiums, which all three services have adopted, are all kind of part of that conversation. Our theory of innovation is really about the people. It is about really understanding the problems from an end user perspective, and then sharing those problems with new innovators across the country and across the world. And so what I mean by that is we try to focus on people that might not have considered either working with the department or selling to the department before, by really sharing the complexity of the challenges that the department is looking at. And because our organization is at the Office of the Secretary of Defense level, we work across all of the services and we find problems from any rank, no matter where they are in the department. And we also work with the Fourth Estate. So we can find problems no matter where they are, and we can share them with innovators across the country. We do that through two main demographics. One is academia. We have relationships with almost 60 universities across the country today. And of course, startup hubs, not only the ones that you mentioned earlier, Stoichi, but also growing ones in Bloomington and Tempe and Orlando. And it's really inspiring to see what happens when you share those problems with people. Most people really have never worked with the department before, and they don't really appreciate the diversity of problems that the department is working on. One of the favorite examples that I love to use is we had an OSD office come to us and say, we're really trying to control the population of brown tree snakes on the island of Guam. Can you help us out? Right? I mean, these are kinds of problems that people just never consider when they think about, sort of what movies tell you about what the department is focused on. But when we share energy-related challenges, when we share humanitarian assistance challenges, when we share medical and emergency response challenges, because the department has the largest hospital system in the world, people are really invested in helping the department solve those problems. And because they're dual use problems, those innovators, when they come up with solutions, can sell them in the private sector as well, which means they don't have to depend on the department's acquisition system as to whether or not their startup lives or dies, right? And so this is about sort of creating equities so that everyone learns and everyone is able to succeed together.
So can you provide a little bit more detail? Are you guys at so where do you guys fall under in the larger DoD organizational structure?
Sure, we're in the Office of the Secretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. And so when you think about what we work on, the vast majority of the programming that we do is at TRL 0, right? Because we're giving students or we're giving a startup just a problem. There is no technology yet. So one of the advantages of our operating model is that we are actually responsible for launching startups. So in the last fiscal year, we launched over 188 startups based on DoD challenges. And the benefit of that, of course, is that startup begins knowing that they have a use case and knowing that they have a long-term customer.
No, that's great. If you can put a little meat on the bones in regards to some of the programming, right? So big picture wise of being able to, right, in the TRL scale, you maybe have DIU, right, the Defense Innovation Unit that's more working on venture capital, private equity, TLR level, 8, 9, we're ready to go and we can, relatively easily adopt it. You guys on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, type of scale here. Can you provide a little bit more programming for those that, who are your customers, right? Is it just airmen, soldiers, Marine, space warfighters, or right, whatever we call my services, spacemen? And then on the other half, academia or industry partners. One is, who is your customers? And can you tell us a little about your programming so that they can actually integrate with you and take advantage of those services?
Sure. So, let's go back to the idea that we're a problem-solving organization, right? Sometimes we have folks from the department come to us and say, we have this really sticky challenge, but we're not quite sure how to break it down into manageable pieces. So we have a series of programs that help them use any number of facilitation tools to help kind of develop that problem into a more refined idea of really what's at the heart of their challenges so that we can try to find ways to solve it. We then have folks from the department that come to us and say, okay, we have a really solid idea of what our problem is, but we need help sort of broadening our horizon. We're open to any kind of technology. We want to know what's new. We want to look at this from a green field perspective. So we can take those problems and share them with universities. A very well-known program that we run is called Hacking for Defense.
Yeah.
And we share that problem with students, and they're able to essentially use lean launchpad methodologies to conduct customer discovery interviews, to do a market analysis, and to provide that DoD entity with either a COTS solution that's like, say, this gets at 80% of your problem, or they can develop a new and bespoke solution for that DoD organization. And then we have parts of the department that come to us and say, okay, we know exactly what we need. We know what's out there. And now we just really need help finding these solutions, and we need to cast a very wide net. So we have a set of programs in our acceleration portfolio that help organizations that have R&D money find those technologies and really start to build that relationship with those startups.
Yeah, if we can pull on that thread for those businesses, sure, for those small businesses in regards to your programs like Start and Propel. Sure. Can you pull those threads for those small businesses on the call of just what those programs are and how they could also participate in those?
Sure, yeah. So, we also run pitch events. So a Start event is our version of a pitch event for parts of the department that are interested in sort of creating new connections with startups. We really serve as a broker for the department. So we help them find what contract vehicles would be helpful for them, what kind of funding is available, and then we really help set up the event and help promote and find those startups no matter where they may be across the country. And then, of course, our Propel event is a program that we run where we link up with private accelerators and incubators across the country, and we help focus those incubators and accelerators on national defense technology needs. And then one of the programs where we launch companies, as I mentioned earlier, is where we work with DoD labs that have intellectual property that's essentially going unfunded and sitting on the shelf. And we have,
transfer. Yeah.
Yep, and we share that technology with serial entrepreneurs. And it's really kind of a win-win. The technology is proven. We've invested taxpayer dollars. We know the technology works. And by pairing up with those with serial entrepreneurs, we kind of really create that equation for success for that technology. We spin it out into the commercial sector, of course, with the eventual goal of that company selling to the department.
Great. So being able to go to the NSIN website to be able to either find out about the pinch events or be able to see what accelerators that they could apply to be able to get after that, the Propel program. What about warfighters, right? The demand side, right? How do you guys capture those warfighters' needs from airmen, soldiers, sailors, Marine, space warfighters, from the lowest levels to the program executive offices to the senior leaders like, Secretary Gertz, right, and Dr. Roper, and those folks. How do you guys capture those needs by which to convey that to small businesses of give that demand signal?
Sure. So I have a team that's situated across the country, and they really build those innovation ecosystems at the local level. And so they are there connecting with the DoD installations that are in their regions. They're reaching out to universities, setting up programs with those universities. And then they're also reaching out to the startup hubs that are in their regions. And so we really kind of work at the ground level, and that allows us to, find the second lieutenant who has a need and can't get it to the right person for whatever reason. Or we find the undersecretary, or it does not matter what rank they are, as long as they have a problem and they're interested in working with us to find new and novel ways to solve it. And so for us, because we have such a flexible operating model, we can reach out to these folks and help connect them to the right programs so they get them what they need.
So lastly, to put a finer edge, what are some of those biggest roadblocks that you see at getting talented innovators, right, to work with the department, just like yourself, who you could have gone to industry, you could have made more money on the commercial side. You chose to embark on this path to be a government civilian, right, and to serve alongside us. And for those that are not right in uniform, for those that are not in industry, that they want to serve alongside us in some capacity, internships, fellowships, those kinds of programs to help them start helping us tackle some of these challenges. What programs do you have for them? And what are some of the big barriers to even getting some of that talent to want to join us as well?
Sure. And because of our programs, they are the first time that many people are ever interacting with the department. And so we have a lot of folks that come out of our program saying, hey, we really enjoyed this. We think these problems are really important, and we'd like to find more ways to help solve DoD problems. And so we've created an entire slate of programs that are meant to help those folks find people in the department that they can work with. So for undergrads, we have a fellowship that runs during the summer, and we have capstone courses that run at the university during the semester, where we essentially share DoD problems with them and help them work through those problems with the department. For graduates, we have a program called the Technology and National Security Fellowship, which is where we embed people with hard science specialties with parts of the department that are interested in taking advantage of that talent. And then for mid-career folks, people who are working in their day-to-day and think, well, this is just no longer available to me because I've made certain choices and now I'm working in the private sector. We actually have a program called the Defense Civilian Advisory Corps. And that is essentially a part-time advisory kind of relationship that we set up between the person who's participating and the DoD entity that's interested in taking advantage of their knowledge. So these are all generally pathways that are considered challenges for people who want to work with the department. And by creating programs that specifically target those challenges, we can help create those pathways and make those connections.
No, I appreciate it, Kristen. And this is one of the hidden jewels of the innovation ecosystem, because NSIN, right, crosses the chasm to help us as airmen and soldiers. I actually was a fellow, right, from someone who actually is in the military. And my background being able to be embedded into a artificial intelligence company, which I knew nothing about, but they were working on drones, and I have extensive experience both in fighters and in drones. And it was a great experience, from problem curation to solution discovery, rapid prototyping, how they moved at the speed of business. And what I learned to be able to bring back to my unit, right, to the state of Texas and our National Guard has paid dividends to what we have done, right, for COVID, hundreds of millions of dollars, of meals, frontline testing, hurricane disasters. Much of what I learned how to make decisions and how they just ran their operation was truly impressive and has helped me in my professional development in my career. So appreciate you guys being here. Hopefully everyone got some perspective of the breadth of programming and services that you guys provide. Truly impressive. And thanks, Kristen, for joining us today. And guys, appreciate it. Thanks for having us on.
Alex, thank you so much. And thank you for this conversation. Kristen, we really appreciate your contributions today, and we look forward to visiting with you guys in the future. So thank you so much for the work you do and your time today.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.
Thanks.